So hopefully in the last video I showed you why the standard form of a linear equation would be the best way to represent a given situation, and now I want to talk about why the slope-intercept form might be the best way to think about a given situation. So here is, I wrote, I owe $400 to my credit card. And we're going to assume here that interest rates are 0, so I know there's no interest rate here, so I just owe 400. And if you know anything about interest, you're going to say that's crazy, Mr. Steiner, but we're just going to say we owe 400 and we're just going to pay it off every day. I make $90 every day as a student teacher or a substitute. But my non-debt expenses are, I guess I should write R there, are $78 per day. So let's just take this per day, these per day numbers, right? I take in $90, but I have to pay out $78. Let's say this is for food and gas and expenses. So on net, if I'm taking in 90 and I have to pay out 78, every day I have $12 to pay down that debt. This is $12 per day that I get. Per is going to be a very, very common word to use when we talk about any of these linear applications. So let's think about this graphically. Let's look at our values here. So if I owe someone $400, I really like to think about that as a negative number, right? Maybe negative numbers were they were introduced to you, hopefully that way. To have money, you have a positive amount. To owe someone money, you have a negative amount. So this is how much we have. So let's just call this, we can't call this debt, right? If I were to write debt up here, that wouldn't make any sense, right? Because to have a negative debt, it's almost like a negative times a negative equals a positive. So you know what I'm gonna call this? I'm gonna call this our balance, and this is like an account balance. I have a $400 account, a negative $400 account balance. I owe $400 more than I have, and we're paying this off at $12 per day. So this would make sense that this number right here is going to get closer and closer to 0 if I can pay it off at $12 per day. So let me just draw that line right there just to make it intuitive. And I'm going to keep going because at some time I am going to pay it off and I'll actually start making some money. Sorry, I'm not making some money. I'll actually start having a positive balance. So let's look at this. What's the slope of this line? Well, it depends on how I measure my time. Let's suppose I measure this in days. After 1 day of working and I make my $90, this point will come up by 12. So let me just take this triangle and draw it up over here, okay? So there's that triangle. It's going to go up by 12. And whoops, I should underline. Let me do the right colors here. Let's do blue. Here's our $12. It's going to go up by 12 for going 1 day. Let's use dark yellow. 1 day. So we have a rise over run. We have 12 over 1. Right? So we have our rise over our run. We have a slope now. So our slope is equal to 12. Once we've defined our units, we have to define our units. I mean, I could have made time months, and then our units would be 1/3 or 1/30th. Well, typical month is one day is 1/30th. But so our so for our time being days, we have our slope of being 12. And what about our our y-intercept, which is right here? It's negative 400. So we have all that we need to write this equation in slope-intercept form. 12x minus 400. And at what point will our debt, well, I'm sorry, not ours, I'm sorry to include you in my debt. I'm sorry. It's all mine. At what point will my debt be equal to 0? It will be when y is equal to 0. And that will be at, you know what? I have to apologize. I made a major mistake here. T is our x-axis. This really should be t. Please forgive me. I hope you listened to this point before you sent me an angry message. 12t is equal to 400. So, again, I made a mistake. 12t minus 400 is equal to 0. I'm going to take this, go up here with it. 0 is equal to 12t minus 400. If I add 400 to both sides of the equation. Fast forward if this is going too slow for you. I get 12t is equal to 400. So how many days will it take me, divide both sides by t? T is equal to 400 divided by 12. Now before you rush to your calculator, I'm going to do this. 400 divided by 12 is equal to 100 divided by 3. I just divided the numerator and denominator by 4. And so this is 33 and 1/3 days. But it doesn't make sense to have 1/3 of a day because I really did say this is happening per day. So it's really 34 days. On the 34th day, I am free from debt. Gosh, I hope that was helpful.